start to work on Co-Leader, and how long did it take to get ready to final work?
So we started working on the project in 2016. But it was one of those projects, like a passion project. It wasn't a commission. Like, we worked on it every time we had a bit of time or money. And so in total, it's been like a long development, but the idea and the core of it has always been the same.
Mm-hmm. And how do you choose the thematic of the project?
How do we what?
Choose the thematic.
I guess we became very interested in what happens when one person wears a headset and there's still somebody standing next to them, and the relationship that kind of develops between them when one person is kind of somewhere else but they're still together. So at the beginning it was kind of exploring relationships, and more we realized that it was about power dynamics within relationships when one person becomes the puppeteer of the other person.
So you want to continue to develop this?
Yeah.
And when you start to work with the VR,
So,
and why you
VR.
decided to?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we encountered VR probably around 2015, and so what we've been doing up to that point is we run a company called Anagram, and Anagram makes immersive stories that are interactive, and particularly interactive in a way which kind of allows people to bring themselves to the story. And there was something kind of intriguing about VR. There's a lot of kind of hype about VR, and we weren't sure really that we even wanted to get anywhere near it. And then increasingly, because we had pieces of work that were at the same kind of festivals, and we were asked to consult on other people's VR projects, we kind of found the place that was exciting for us, and that was not really thinking about putting a story in the headset. It was using the affordances of the medium. The idea is normally you have the headset and you have the controllers, and this is your world. But what happens if you have the controllers and I have the headset, and I can see you but only as a metaphor, as a kind of loose representation of a person. And so in terms of VR, we're kind of 2.5 projects in VR, but we're also kind of really open to using other kinds of technology, which becomes just part of the ingredients that you use to take people on a journey. And VR is exciting because it's so physical, and you can make gestures kind of narrative, and I think we're excited about how different movements and different ways in which your body progresses a story can also, there's something about body memory and the emotions that you hold in different situations, whether you're crouching or leaping or very close to someone else, that can be very useful, and VR offers a shortcut in a way to telling that kind of story.
Which software do you use to work to create the environment, the animation?
We use Unity to make the visuals of the VR, but we're a multidisciplinary team. So May and I dream up what's supposed to happen, and we write it and we direct it. But then there's also a developer who works with the Unity program, and there's also a set designer, and there's also another developer. So, and having those kind of different influences on a project, writers our background is in documentary film and in sort of interactive theatre, and then developers who come from games, and then a set designer who comes from making furniture. So that is where the magic happens, rather than, and that those kind of combinations of people, rather than are we using the right software, or have we got the best developer on the planet who's the perfect Unity,
We do have the best developer.
Yeah, we do.
But the animations are made in a mixture of Maya, After Effects, and Unity. Unity is free.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. About the music and the back-over voice, how do you choose the
So the
tracks?
We're
composer.
very, very picky about voices. I'd say in some ways I think that's one of the things that we're most obsessed with. And there's a lot of interactive projects that use voice that like basically fall down because the delivery isn't good enough or it's a bit weird or so we're really really picky about who does it, about how it's written, about the pace that it happens. We often work with the same people, the same voice, the same people that do the voice. We have some friends who are really good at it, thankfully. And then in terms of the music, we've worked with different people over the years, but the people that worked on the sound for the Collider come from film, come from like composing film soundtracks.
Yeah, I mean, because in a way, like, VR in itself is not where the true immersion happens. Like, audio is so part of allowing you to feel like you're elsewhere, and it's kind of the quickest, most immediate way of taking somebody out of whatever world they're in into another world. And so it's always part of like how that journey happens. And as you know, like any filmmaker knows, like music is like your emotion. Like whatever happens in the music guides like how people feel that the possibility of what they may feel in that experience.
Do you have other projects in mind, also together with VR or also normal cinema?
Oh, we have a company and we've been working together for 6 years.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of projects that we've done and other projects that are happening right now and other projects that come in the future. So at the moment we're also doing a completely different kind of project, which is building some giant binoculars that are going to be on the street in public space.
Okay.
Where you look through and you see some animation playing over the top of the street beyond, and it's about imagining the future. So all the animations have been created with local residents of this town, and it's kind of like a big, playful public art piece. And then we're also developing another VR piece called Goliath, which May will talk about.
So yeah, we're also doing another VR project which is about the experience of psychosis, which is a documentary about a man who was diagnosed with schizophrenia and is also an online gamer. So it talks about not only like the virtual reality of his illness, but also the virtual reality of his gaming world. And the idea is to kind of use that not only to kind of challenge the perception of what people feel like schizophrenia is and like the stigma of it, but also to kind of open up this conversation about like the fluid realities that we experience all the time by using a mixture of VR and also set design, and how these two things can simulate a sense of kind of like mistaken identity, that moment where you think that you know that something is going to be there and it isn't.
Do you prefer linear VR or also interactive, personally?
To make it or to watch it?
As a watcher, if you go, for example, now to the VR to see other works, etc., you prefer the linear or to interact?
I think for me, like, the interaction is hard. Because getting it right is challenging, but I'm inspired. Like, I think now in like VR, I don't really need to see the safe option. There's so much time to experiment, and it's kind of a bit of a danger to be like, yeah, we've arrived, this is the best we can do. Like, I don't even think we've even begun to think about what we can do. And so kind of the opportunity for interactivity is in a way much wilder. Whereas, you know, the linear stuff and the 360 stuff, I guess, like, from our point of view, if you're going to use a medium, what's the right story for the medium is a question that we will ask, and other people won't ask that in the same way.
There's also sort of something that happens when you, like, this doesn't happen with every project.
Okay.
And there is like really good linear VR, but there is something that can happen, which is that when you put on the headset and you're in a medium that seems to offer something about participation, that if you can't participate, or it just happens, that you can end up feeling a bit weird and a bit like, oh, but I wanted, you know, I'm here, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And so I think that frustration sometimes works against projects, which is a shame. But there is also some really beautifully made linear VR that I've loved. So I don't think it's a blanket rule. It's just something about like, how do we explore what the texture is of this medium, and like for us at the moment, I think the most interesting texture is, you know, if I do this, what happens? And that working on that is what's exciting.
Okay. it's fine.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done, that was great.
Thank you.